These Pokemon cards are coming down in value, which does make you wonder whether we are at the very early stages of a market correction. Though before I get into this video, I'm actually super excited to be gifting this Armorage illustration rare to one subscriber. Now, to know if you won this super unique card, if I reply to your comment and I add the Lucario emoji to my reply, then congratulations, this card is being sent your way. And of course, if it is your first time here, my name is Phil. I made this Pokemon investing YouTube channel earlier last year. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the Pokemon TCG world. Now, as overwhelming as the hobby can be with its inevitable ups and downs, there is some kind of hopeful news and hopeful data which I will be walking you through today's video to showcase you what's actually happening, because some of the top chase cards, your most expensive cards from sets, are showing some level of weakness within the market. Now, by weakness, I mean some have stopped climbing and a lot are actually starting to come down in value. Now, I personally think a lot of these high-end and top chase cards probably been a little bit too inflated for a while. I think with this whole new bubble that's happened, so much new money came into the hobby and a lot of naive money came in as well. Now, here's the thing, right? When it comes to Pokemon cards, they are usually not as liquid as other investments. When stocks or other investments drop due to world events, we see the impact right away because they can be sold instantly. Pokemon cards take more time. If you want to sell Pokemon cards, you need to take photos, you need to negotiate with the buyers, you need to list them for sale, and then you need tools like eBay and TCG Player also to pull in and update the data of the sale, and then it gets reflected because of this. So Pokemon cards market data lags behind like a month or two to other faster moving assets. Though as I'm saying that, as much as we like to think Pokemon cards are not that liquid, this mindset is changing thanks to Misprint, which is the paid partner of today's video. So Misprint is a very unique US-based website which allows you to buy and sell Pokemon cards at community-driven prices and pairs you with the best offers in real time. Now, when it comes to Pokemon investing, right, a lot of people make a very fair and valid argument that your money is stored in the product and it can't just be accessed that easily like other forms of investing, which is definitely a fair point, right? However, Misprint actually provides a unique solution to this. What's so unique about Misprint is that it has a buy it now price, but it also has a one-of-a-kind sell now feature. Now, what separates Misprint is that buyers can set what they are willing to pay for a product or an item in advance, and sellers have the option to sell at these prices if they want immediate liquidity. I mean, Misprint is really growing quickly, and they've also added an app which is available to download. Definitely feel free to check out Misprint. The link to the website is in the description of this video. Though, I mean, the reality is, right, if you want to be successful in investing in collectibles, you kind of do need to understand what you are buying. You need to know the franchise. Whether you're buying Pokemon or Dragon Ball or Magic, whatever you're buying, you need to be informed on the decisions you are purchasing. And that's why the genuine fans will always have the edge over the new hype beasts that are entering. Because they actually understand the market. They understand what's desired and what's not desired and what's a hype period and so forth. Though in terms of cards and their movements, you gotta check these out because some wild movements are happening. All right, so the market is obviously going in an interesting direction. Now, like I said with all of this, right, and I did talk about this previously, but usually how it works is it's not your smaller cards that kind of drop in value. What we usually see is your top end, high-end collectibles. Once they start kind of falling down in value or the cracks start happening, a wave starts trickling down. Now, we do have a lot of things obviously going on in the world. The stock market had its thing a few weeks ago on how it was just really in a bad position and, everything was kind of going down in value. And then Pokemon cards were staying quite resilient. But like I mentioned before, Pokemon cards do have a bit of a lag period behind them. The main reason for that is because if you want to sell Pokemon cards, it isn't that immediate kind of thing where you just list it and it gets a sale. If you're selling on eBay, sellers need to take photos, you got to negotiate with offers. There's so much happening, so it can be sometimes quite challenging just to sell a card and get immediate liquidity, though we are seeing some interesting things happening. The first one I'm on is the Bubble Mew. Now, I'm on the 3-month graph on TCG Player. Now, I just want to show you the kind of way it's traveled in the last 3 months. So you can see the Bubble Mew in December was selling for 264 USD. Then it found a huge market high in February this year for 421 US, and you can see right now, look at that, that's dropped to 350 US. Now, this is really interesting to see, and this is probably a bit of a correction already taking place for the Bubble Mew. I do think, as you can see, that spike that happened in February this year, just before it, probably went a little bit too quick, right? It did release just over a year ago. So Paldean Fates isn't that old. Now, what's happened here is obviously we've also got news that Paldean Fates will be getting booster bundle restocks. Whether or not you're going to be able to get those easily or not, it's anyone's guess, right? Like, probably unlikely that you're just going to be able to get these products that easily given the current state of the Pokemon market. But I do think the singles market is where more of the opportunities are going to be happening. Now, if this is your first year in Pokemon investing, what usually happens is during the US and, the Europe summer period, right? It's actually winter for us in Australia when that happens, but the summer period for the rest of the world, that's when markets in Pokemon start going down. And I'm assuming the main reason for this is because people actually want to start enjoying themselves a bit more. In the wintertime, more people are indoors. And then when summer comes, people like to go holidays, people like to do things. There's a lot of social events. There's just more things happening. So a lot of people sell their collections during this period. So it will be interesting to see if it's already happening in March, what will happen during the summer period when traditionally that is when a lot of cards kind of start coming down in value. I'm very, very interested to see where this Bubble Mew will go. Now, moving on to the Greninja. Now, it was actually funny about this card because I had someone comment saying, oh, I can't wait for Greninja to come down in price. Now, like I said, with these top chase cards, they will come down a little bit, but what you got to think of to get these cards, it's not like you're going to get some crash where it's going to be, a $30 or a $70 card again. Usually think of it like a bit of a discount. I mean, if you guys play PS5, you know how they always have those summer sale discounts and you can sometimes buy your favorite game for like 30% off. That's kind of what you're hoping for with this. Definitely don't think these top chase cards are going to like bottom out and be just super, super affordable. They're always going to have quite a high price in the market. But you can see this Greninja right here, right? Selling for $337. Then it found a high in February, similar to the Bubble Mew, around at $411. And you can see right now it's gone down to $379. Now, that is a far smaller dip than the Bubble Mew has had. But you know what's interesting about this? It's actually going the other way. This has been so rare. I mean, because if I pull this into the year graph, right, you can see most of the journey for this card has just been consistently upwards, right? Now, obviously, there's going to be a little bit of pressure on these cards, considering the fact that there is reprints in the works, right? So we don't know how big they're going to be. We don't know how much more of these are going to be on the market. So people are probably not that bullish on overpaying, but they're also not going to be selling it too much for a loss. It's going to be finding this point in the market. I am very interested to see where a lot of these cards go. Now, another interesting one is the Moonbreon or the Umbreon. Now, the PSA 10 card for this has actually had quite a big decrease. Now, this kind of just ballooned really high because of the Prismatic Evolutions hype. I feel everyone just kind of went back to Moonbreon and said, wow, we love you so much. But really, we also got to remember it's kind of approaching close to 15,000 copies in PSA 10. Yes, it's rare, but man, there is still a lot of copies of this card out in the wild. What's more interesting about this, you can also see that this was selling around February for $1,744. Very expensive, but you can see there has been a bit of a decline on Moonbreon, currently selling for around $1,480 to $1,500. So it has dropped around 200 US, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is kind of what we have in the wild for Moonbreon is really what's left, right? We don't have that much more Moonbreon cards that are going to be entering the market. They're slowly going to be coming into the market as more and more Evolving Skies gets ripped. But then again, it's not like you're going to have this huge kind of influx, kind of like what we're going to expect with Bubble Mew and Greninja. With this, it's going to be a very, very slow burn of more and more Moonbreons added to the market over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. So it is interesting that we're seeing a bit of a pullback for this card in particular, given the fact that the supply isn't going to be there like the other cards. But still, we can see these top chase cards are coming slowly down. Also, I just want to say, if you're looking to connect with the Pokemon community, feel free to join my channel's Discord server. We've just surpassed 5,000 members and there's a lot of Discord exclusive giveaways and people to connect with. The server invite is in the description of this video. Now, the next one is the Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike. Really cool card. I'm going to pull this into the last 3 months. This is the last month, but I'm going to pull that in 3 months. This card went from $511 all the way up to $746, which is really strange considering it's a bit of an older card. So the fact that it just became trending out of nowhere, really, really weird movement. But you can see right now, kind of gone down, selling for 681. You know, it's not a sharp decline, but you can see the market is pulling back. Obviously, there's just too many things happening. And like I said, Pokemon cards don't have that immediate liquidity, so the market doesn't get the data points straight away. It does take a little bit more time to see the kind of effects within the market, right? Same thing when we go on the Pikachu from Surging Sparks. We know Surging Sparks is getting reprints. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a lot of Surging Sparks reprints, considering the fact that it only released in November of 2024. So we still have a lot more time of Surging Sparks to enter the market. You can see here in the last 3 months, this was selling for around $487. And you can see right now selling for around $442. Nothing crazy, but you can see the market is slowly going the other direction rather than what it was last year, where everything just was always going up. You know, even at the beginning of this year, right at those early days when Prismatic Evolutions released, everything just looked like it was climbing up. People were canceling eBay listings because what was happening? People would win an auction, they would wait a day or two to pay because you have 4 days to pay on eBay. By the time the payment got made, people would already cancel and refund the order and relist it because the market moved that quickly. That's the kind of things we were dealing with. We saw that with Drowzee. We saw that with Brute Bonnet. And funnily enough, just a quick one on those cards, look what's happening with those. Here's with the Drowzee, you can see obviously went from $30 all the way to $81 and now back to $38. Some weird pump and dump scenario happened with this card, but like I said, man, you can see some market movement definitely went the other way for this Drowzee. Now, same thing with the Lost Origin Giratina. You can see from 708 gone down to 660. You know, $40 decrease. It's kind of a flesh wound at the moment, but like I said, the summer is coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see where a lot of these cards end up going. Now, you can see also Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon went from 1.6k down to around 1.5k. The fact that this is the same price as Moonbreon always rubs me up the wrong way, because like I said, Evolving Skies Moonbreon had a lot of years to get to that price point. This is a brand new set, so the fact that it's on similar prices does kind of rub me up the wrong way, but nonetheless, I mean, that's kind of what the market's paying. I do think with so much more Prismatic Evolutions about to come in, Pokemon's actually said that they're going to try get as much Prismatic Evolutions as they can out in the world. I do think we will see prices drop for this. Now, another really interesting one is the Magikarp illustration rare. Obviously, with the reprint news, people got quite bearish with this card. You can see this found a huge market high for $280, and you can see as soon as that reprint news came in and all what's happening, this is now selling for $244. Pretty significant drop quickly, and I do think that this will probably continue to come down for the time being, considering how things are playing out at the moment. We can also see interesting ones with the Charizard from Paldean Fates. This was selling for $160, went up to $220, and right now, look at that, just trickling down to $195. So you can see the market for a lot of these expensive cards is having that pullback, which is natural because it was pretty overinflated. But this one kind of surprises me, but not as much as the 151 Charizard. Check this one out. The 151 Charizard, as you can see on that 3-month graph, look at that, man. That right there looks like a pretty sharp kind of way going down, right? I mean, it's nothing crazy because already in December it was selling for $200, then it went all the way to $292, and you can see now it's pulled back to $244. Probably fair, to be honest, because, you know, don't get too excited because it's still $40 up from December, but still you can see that it's going down. Now, what's interesting about this and why it's a little bit different than the others is because, yes, Blooming Waters had reprints and restocks, but we haven't had any news that there's going to be more of that, right? Whereas the other cards that are experiencing this drop, most of them have had reprint kind of news announced. So it is interesting to see even 151 cards coming down in value. And of course, you can also see another one that's kind of surprised me a little bit is the Giratina from Crown Zenith. Now, this one hasn't gone down in value, but it's also interesting to see when the market's like this. While it hasn't gone down, it's staying stable, and it's very likely that it may slowly start coming down. And this is why this market right now is interesting, but also I do feel it's not the kind of safest place to be putting big money on top chase cards, considering a lot of people are a little bit bearish. Maybe if you wait it out a little bit, it might be an interesting time to buy some of these. Though again, you know, timing the bottom's never a good idea, but you can just see that the market is moving in the opposite direction. Now, as much as we're excited for what's to come, I do believe that the market will experience a correction for these top chase cards, especially the ones that are a bit overinflated. And the exact reason why I have that thought process can be seen right within this video here. Within this video that's appearing on screen, I uncover some previous examples of when Pokemon cards crashed in value and go over my rationale why I believe this will happen again.